is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Veronica Mars, Season 1, Episode 10, An Echolls Family Christmas. In this episode, Logan's dad gets stabbed. That's all that happens. Welcome to Spoil Me. You guys, that's all I want to talk about because I just did the live watch and now the whole time I was like, why do they want to live watch this one? Why do they want to live this? And can I just say how satisfying it is that he not only got stabbed, but that he got stabbed in front of his wife and in front of another woman that I'm pretty sure he was sleeping with also, and in front of his son. At potentially the most public event that could possibly be held at their home. And that there is absolutely no way any of this is staying out of the press at all. There's no way, right? Like, you don't lock down this whole thing. The only safeguard is that some people were outside watching the carolers when it happened. And even then, people are going to pretend that they weren't out with the carolers, that they saw the whole thing, just so that they can get paid by TMZ. Because, of course they are. It's like the kind of thing when somebody finds out that, like, their neighbor was a serial killer, and all of a sudden they, like, talk about their close shaves with this guy that they, like, never spoke to in their lives. Rachel says, you seem so delighted by the stabbing. I really was. Like, his dad is such a piece of shit. And I really expected, and I'm sorry guys, because I just watched this like 5 minutes ago, my thoughts are a little scattered here. But the way that his mom acts throughout the episode, I really expected her to be the orchestrator of some big, like, plan to humiliate him. What is his dad's name again? His first name? I know it's Echolls is the last name. Aaron, right. I like 3 people immediately. I had wanted her to be the one that was like aware of all of this. But then I'm thinking, you know, like when I step back and look at the situation, if I had been given more than one episode to like think this through, I don't think I would have continued to suspect her because my immediate reaction was for her to have brought the, you know, fake letter to Keith in order to take the suspicion off of herself. But the only reason to take suspicion off of yourself is if you're not going to have a big public showdown, is if you're going to like have him get, you know, murdered or there was a terrible accident or something and make it look like somebody that you don't know could like did some shit to him, like, you know, poisoning him or whatever. But there's no reason for her to draw attention off herself if what she was planning on doing was outing him at the party that they had together. Like, that wouldn't make any sense. So yeah, I just kept on expecting her to pull some shit. And I guess I think the show wanted me to think that, to be honest. Rachel says, part of me thinks she has to know he's a cheater, right? Right. Oh, 100%. There's no way she's not aware of this. Like, and it's one of those like fine line things where, I think when somebody's, you know, it's different when you have somebody who's like cheated on you with one person or, you know, made a mistake one time versus somebody like him who is sleeping with women apparently every chance he gets. I can't imagine that you share a house with that person and go to events with that person and you don't notice the looks that he's getting from other women and the looks like beyond just like, oh, what a good looking guy. No, these are looks of women who know him. You know him. And also that he like disappears during parties and has to like, you know, be away from home, I would imagine, for filming and stuff. Like, there is no possible way that you aren't aware of at least the many opportunities that he has had. Now, when I said there's a fine line, what I mean is the fine line is between consciously knowing it and subconsciously knowing it. Because I have seen relationships where the person being cheated on, I think, was aware, and they were just trying to be okay with it, trying to ignore it. And that's kind of where I expect her to be, is that when she's like faced with the, you know, undeniable evidence that he was cheating and with multiple women, now she has to react and do something about it. But she was willing to pretend she didn't know, to keep the peace in the house. Because, let's face it, she's probably very used to this lifestyle. I don't know what would happen if they got divorced, or how that set up, if she signed a prenup, or if they were together before he was ever successful, or what. There's also, like, the fucking media frenzy that would happen around it. Like, that for me would be such a hindrance to ending a relationship, is just knowing that the moment it came out that the relationship was ending, that all eyes are going to be on you for at least a couple days, especially judging from how big of a star he is supposed to be. And what an emotionally taxing experience that would be. I can understand putting that off. Jamie says, even at this party, he was much too close with his agent's wife when Lynn came in to make him come see her surprise outside, right? Oh, I'm sorry. I misread that sentence. With his agent's wife when Lynn came in to make him come see her surprise outside, right? Yes. Yeah. I mean, that moment, like, he's standing really close to her. His body language is really like receptive, and he looks like he's got a guilty conscience when she startles him. Like, the whole way that's framed is very obviously. And it's interesting Jamie's saying that, because Jamie, I don't know if you watched the first couple of seasons of oh no, we talked about it, that you haven't seen Black Mirror. But there's an episode that I covered with Miles where him and I were watching the body language of somebody. And at that time when I was recording those with Miles, him and I would be on headphones talking, like, while I watched the episode for the first time. And he would never... He had seen it already, and I had never seen it. So he'd get to hear my reaction in real time as I watched. And the instant I saw these two people together, I was like, oh shit, they're fucking. And Miles was like, what? What do you mean? And it turns out that we had vastly different interpretations of the entire episode of the show, because he went the whole time thinking that the people being accused of cheating together were innocent. And I assumed immediately out of the gate that they were guilty. And that made us both approach the whole, like, you know, the whose side we chose in the episode and everything very, very differently. And that's the kind of stuff that, like, Jamie says, is it possible that Miles is purer of soul than you? It's certain, like, Miles has, I'm not going to tell tales out of school here, but he has very little experience, which I'm sure he would be free to admit. So I think that's really what it is that he doesn't, like, know body language as well. And he just seemed to not, like, pick up on what I thought were very obvious signs. Now, I have a hard time believing that his mom doesn't have the experience to pick up on body language. But again, if you are, like, trying to bury your head in the sand, if you're willing to do it, if you want to do it, I just don't know that there's any subtle hint that's going to break through that. You have to be faced with not only the person who he cheated with, you have to have their confession of it. You have to have them admitting it. And even then, it's going to be a minute. So yeah, I think that she just didn't want to know. And, once it's, like, forced out into the open, she's going to, like, be like, I should have known, or I kind of knew, but I just, ignored it. So anyway, yeah, the whole thing with this stalker, oh man, can we talk about, everyone help me out. What is his mom's name? Oh, Lynn. Jamie's saying Lynn is willfully in denial. Yeah, definitely. Lynn, when she comes in to talk to Keith, OMG, you guys, I can't handle how, like, and listen, she's a very attractive woman, but she's very attractive in that very specific LA way where everything is so tucked and nipped into place that I feel like I see her in person and I'm going to have a way different reaction than I do when I see her on screen. And I really like Keith and the way that he flirts with her. I lost a little bit of respect for him there. And he doesn't even flirt that bad. It's just that it's written all over his face. How he's like, oh, hi. Like, it's, oh God, you know, and the guy, he's single, he has needs, you know, I shouldn't blame him. But dude, you were doing much better when you were going after Buffy's counselor. Yeah, I know they're married in real life. I think somebody mentioned that a couple episodes ago. So noir the way she walks into the office. That's true. Yeah, that slow pan up her legs is really something. She also showed up in a Community episode and she played like a similar type. So yeah, I'm really into this weird dynamic between Weevil and the other dudes. Let's talk about that. Weevil is at this poker game, and I really was just like, what is he doing here? This doesn't make any sense. He is, first of all, is this a guest house? Is this Logan's room or pool house? Okay. It's awesome. And I'm really jealous of having like a whole separate room to decorate also. Like, I know that's not something that people should care about, but I definitely do, as evidenced by literally everything hanging on the wall or on any surface behind me in this video right now. But yeah, it's like the coziest little like Christmas room and they're all just playing and there's a fucking fireplace, like the whole deal. And it seems like Duncan's really drunk. And we find out later that he was definitely faking so that they would all think that he was incapable of playing pool properly and that they would all pretty much write him off. He's a thinker, that one. That's actually not even that bad an idea. I'm sorry, I hit my mic there. Sorry, everybody. But as it turns out, that bottle is full of iced tea, which is amazing. Because I really, when Buffy picks it up and just gulps it, I was like, the fuck is she doing? Like, I know that she's not into this. Oh my God, I said Buffy. You guys, why did I even say Buffy? I haven't even watched that show in like ages. That's so weird. Anyway, Veronica. You know what I normally call her when I misname her? Is Jessica Jones. Because of course, you know, young, what do you call it? Gumshoe types. You said Buffy earlier too. Did I really? God, I wonder why. I mean, it's not even that 90s of a show. Like the first couple episodes felt really, oh, Buffy's counselor. Oh no. That's right. Forgive me, everybody. I don't know how many of you caught the beginning of that live watch, but I got some bad news, so my head is a little scattered. So when she comes and chugs it, I just really was like, what in the fuck is she doing? I know that she isn't into partying like that. And also, it did seem like it was going down way too smooth. So yeah, that was a nice little surprise. So we've got Weevil. We've got Duncan pretending to be drunk. We have Logan being his usual racist pain in the ass self. We've got this kid, Connor, who evidently is a movie star in many movies along with Logan's dad. And he looks so much like the guy that my friend married over this weekend. It really unnerved me a couple times. Like, he really looks a lot like him. And I know he's been in a million things, that actor, because I've recognized him immediately. I just can't think what. But yeah, he is the one dude, as we find out later, or not even the one, because Duncan calls out Logan here and there as well, but he really calls out Logan because he feels like Logan probably is the one who stole the money, not because he's specifically being racist. That's when Connor calls him out and says, that's like the 12th racist thing you've said tonight. Like, what's your deal? And I respected the fact that he spoke up at all, although he doesn't again. Like that one time, Logan was just kind of like, oh, really? Does that soapbox come with your SAG card? I think is the comeback that he has. And then he sort of lets it drop as far as we've seen. So I wanted him to pursue that a little bit, but I get it, you know? And then there's this other kid. Okay, guys, clear this up for me. So this other kid's Sean, right? I think. And Sean is, first of all, really like creepy looking in the face. I hate to say it that way, but look, if I were going to cast a pedophile, I would and he was supposed to be young, I would cast this kid to play that role. Like, he's just got a real unpleasant sort of vibe to him. And I don't know what it is. He's got this just real childlike face, but his eyes are not childlike. And it's an unsettling combination, I guess. Oh my God. Rachel says he kind of looks like a ventriloquist dummy come to life. Oh God. Oh, that's the worst thing. He kind of does. Yep. Well, there it is. Ventriloquist dummies definitely look like pedophiles. I think we can all agree on that. So he was my main suspect right from the word go, because I don't know him, and I didn't think that somebody like Connor would be thieving these guys, because you got to watch your image so much, and he's young enough. I just didn't see it that he would risk something where it was so easy to pinpoint him as being the thief. Like, it's 1 out of 5 chances, really 1 out of 4, because Weevil's pretty much not a suspect for me at all. He says something like, well, maybe he was planning on stealing it before he realized he was going to win, which was a theory that I could kind of get behind a little bit, but I really felt like that's not much. That's awful thin. And so Weevil was really not on my list of suspects at all. And because of the way that we see Connor reacting to how Logan's treating Weevil, it felt too much like there's no way that he is going to rob this dude that he seems to kind of have some empathy for of $5,000. I just don't see if it were Logan who wound up winning in the end, but also one could argue that you don't steal the money knowing who's going to win the game, because then you wouldn't need to steal the money, because then you could just make it so that you win the game. So yeah, all right. But yeah, I don't know, Connor just really wasn't on my list. I felt like it had to be Sean the whole time. And I think it's just because I didn't like him so much. Logan is really gross, but I've gotten to know him on a personal level in such a way that I find myself giving him a pass when maybe I really shouldn't, to be honest, but I do. You know how that is? And I don't know Sean, and the way that he was talking about the conspicuous consumption, and is it wrong to be an embarrassment of riches if you're not embarrassed? But it turns out he's not rich. Am I wrong, guys? Help me out here. It was that Sean is the son of the butler, so he pretends to be part of this really rich family that apparently doesn't have any kids. Am I wrong? And he's been lying to everyone. How do you pull that off for so long? I can't, that's really my main question is, it seems like everybody who's wealthy, the source of their wealth is very well known in the neighborhood. We know that Logan's dad's a movie star. We know that Duncan's dad, but she specifically says something about how he lives in the most expensive house. And I would really expect that folks would just ask or want to know what his parents did for a living, where the money comes from, right? And even if you don't ask, like, as kids in high school, wouldn't the parents be talking amongst themselves? And you mention this kid and they're like, that's not who owns that house. Like, because it feels like everybody in this town sure talks about fucking Veronica's business all the damn time. So I just don't know how that doesn't come up in conversation, that, like, you know, somebody mentions, well, so-and-so is really rich. And they're like, who? That's not who owns this house. There's no way. Like, so I like the idea of a kid being the butler's son and pretending to be rich and all, and, like, you know, just taking advantage of those trappings in order to get this, like, notoriety at school. I do like that, but I definitely don't buy it. And I don't want him anywhere around the show again, because that just felt, yeah, I don't know, you know, it just felt really easy, I guess is what it is. And so it turns out, of course, that he's the one stealing the money, because really he can't afford to lose the money. He tries to make it like, oh, well, you know, difference between me and Weevil is that I don't need the money. Yeah, well, not only do you need your money, but you could definitely use the other money. So he, like, brings this malt liquor. And the other reason I was suspicious of him was that scene where they were paying for the pizza and he doesn't even get up from the table. That was the thing that kind of set me off, was that he didn't move, but I didn't know what that meant. I didn't really, you know, formulate a good theory on how that worked for him actually stealing everything. But yeah, as it turns out, he stuck the money in the malt liquor bottle. The next day when the cleaning people came in, they put it in the recycle, and he just reached in there and grabbed the bottle out, and the money was still in the bottle, which, you know, it's just lucky that that bottle did not break, or that that cleaning person did not see a giant wad of, like, $100 bills sitting inside that bottle. But that's fine. Sure. I can honestly believe that you wouldn't notice. Like, the weight would be off. That would be the only thing. But if you've got, like, a label around the outside of the bottle, and if you're just in your routine of your day, just picking garbage up after a bunch of bratty fucking kids, I can definitely see how you would not notice that. If they didn't make such a big deal about him being the richest kid with the biggest house, just a rich kid with a fancy house, it wouldn't be so hard to buy. Yeah, Nancy, I really do think that might be part of it. That she specifically says the most expensive house, and, you know, he comes every day and, like, chauffeured, and it's Logan who says that he's chauffeured to school with this sort of, like, awe in his voice. Like, even Logan doesn't have that kind of money. And that's the part that I'm just like, there's no way that he's supposed to be the one with the most money, and they don't ask questions about that, or their parents don't talk about that. He probably was playing with money that wasn't his too, and the Rolex that Weevil took from him belongs to whoever really owns that house. Oh, okay. That makes sense. So yeah, so that whole plot, like, obviously, and I was, like I said, predisposed to want him to be the one who did it, because he was just so gross about how much money he had, and I couldn't really, like, that doesn't, the way that Logan talks about having money is really only in comparison to Weevil. He, like, has to frame it that way, where, well, we know you're poor. You're poor. You're our pool boy. Your grandma cleans our house. You such and such. And this kid just talks about it without any prodding whatsoever, which doesn't seem like the way people who actually have money would behave. But I was willing to go with it for the sake of the show, thinking that they were just like, oh no, he's a real asshole, like, promise. And it turns out that he acts that way because he isn't really rich. And yeah, I just can't imagine, like, I'm just trying to think, if I suddenly had money, how I would behave with it. And I just can't even, like, wrap my head around what I would be like if I had money. That's honestly, like, bringing me right up against a brick wall, because I can't even think. Nancy says, but he is still an asshole. That's real. That's true. Yes, he definitely is. So this, yeah, the whole way that this, like, goes down is that Weevil is the one who wins the game. They open the box, the money's not there, and he's sure somebody here stole it, which he winds up being right. And he's also the one that points out to Veronica later that they didn't have to take the money with them. They could have, like, stashed it somewhere and then come back for it. So he's thinking. He knows. And he makes them all like get undressed, and he searches the place as best he can. And I love the flashback too when we're thinking about him like making them all get down to their boxers and empty their pockets out and everything. And Duncan says something about playing nice, and Weevil says, "Oh, I am playing nice, I promise." And I was like, "Yeah, dude, haven't you been around? You saw like Logan's face after him and Weevil had a confrontation that one time, right? Like, you've got to know that this could get way uglier." And what Weevil starts to do after that is just take stuff, because he's decided that they owe him money and he's just going to take it. And while that's not a great solution, I can't say that I blame him, and I'm not mad at him about it, because frankly, you know, eat the rich, whatever, it's fine. So he steals like a what they call also a Fabergé egg, even though of course it can't be, because that would not be just sitting on somebody's knickknack shelf. And he steals Duncan's computer, which that computer then becomes important to Veronica, because Duncan says that he kept like an online journal or a computer journal on it where he talked about her a lot, and whoever has his computer now has access to all of that stuff. Now, okay, let me just say this. That's probably so far on the show the worst contrivance to get her to care about this case. Because really, in the end, it's about a bunch of people. Like, this could get really ugly. I don't feel like we need that thing about Duncan's computer for her to just start to poke around out of pure curiosity, because that's just who she is. So I feel like it would be easier to sort of like, I don't know, just make it so that they are arguing about how, oh, well, was it you? It couldn't be. It was you. Like, and have her over here and start to wonder and try and put the thing together herself, and not have this like art, because the journal entries that he made about her don't play into anything at all in the end. Like that, do we even see Duncan get his computer back? I don't think so, right? So like that whole thing just wound up being nothing. So I feel like they could have left that out, to be perfectly honest. Like, she likes Weevil, she likes Duncan. The two of them are arguing. She doesn't think either of them did it. I think that's enough. I think that's it right there. But okay, whatever. So, all right, that's about it. Let's talk about the Christmas party thing a little bit more, and the deal with Keith, because Keith gets roped into figuring out exactly who the stalker could be. They were obviously in the Echolls house because this threatening note wound up on their dining table. The third one, I think she says later when he's talking to her, which it's really weird to me how like she comes to him and asks for help and seems really worried about it. But then when he's asking her questions while she's like getting ready for the party, all of a sudden she does not really seem to take it that seriously anymore. Like when he points out that there were 3 of them and that this has been escalating, she's just kind of like, yeah, so what does that mean? And I'm like, girl, what do you mean? What does that mean? You came to him worried about this. So he, like, they're in the middle of talking about how this is probably not that big a deal. Aaron definitely doesn't think it is. And he's about to open the front door, and there's like a pumpkin sitting there with his face carved into it and a knife protruding from its head with like fake blood coming out of it. A very nice Halloween-y decoration in the middle of this Christmas deal. And this winds up being like what's required to bust things open for Keith, because he starts to figure out that the person who carved the pumpkin is probably like a professional, and that he can track them down that way. Now, there's a moment, question guys, again, where he's looking at the Halloween pictures, and the woman in the Wonder Woman costume, which is the one that we wind up finding out is the person who's been doing this, he like zeroes in on this picture and seems to put 2 and 2 together from looking at this picture. It happens so fast, and I've only gotten to watch this episode the once. What is it that he saw in that picture specifically that made him realize that she was probably the one? because he winds up calling someplace and like finding out there's like a fancy word for being a pumpkin carver. And so he, you know, figures out that that's her part of her side gig and knows that that's what, you know, probably links the person who's doing this to all of the notes and everything. But I could not see in the photo what it was that he was looking at or what had gotten his attention at all. So, you know, he has to, before he actually even sees these photos, because he has to talk to Aaron about if he's slept with any other women. Aaron insists that he's faithful to his wife. And then Keith goes and talks to the caterer and says something about, because she's like, well, you know, I really can't discuss events. And he says, well, I heard that you had the bad taste to fire somebody at the actual event. Did she actually say that to him, or did he just make that up, guys? Because I don't remember that being talked about. And if he just made that up, that is some ballsy shit to just invent and hope that that has any relevance at all. But I can't remember. This is the problem with only getting to watch the episode once. Normally for this, I watch it twice. So I'm wondering if, like, did the chat die? Because I feel like y'all are gone. Oh, I think he probably was told that off screen. Okay. Okay. So he just trying to look it up about the picture, says Nancy. Oh, guys. Everybody's like, I'm just trying to remember. I'm sorry. Yeah. So if he, like, I'm kind of hoping that he just made that up. If he was told that off screen, that's not like, I feel like there's no reason to not have that be on screen. I want to see that conversation. But in any case, he gets it out of this lady that the girl went up to the second floor to find an available bathroom because all the ones on the first floor were being used. And she came across Mr. Echolls with somebody else's wife on top of him. And he wanted her to be fired immediately because she was not supposed to go up to the second floor. She broke the rules. Not because she totally caught him banging some other dude's wife. Which, like, yeah, all right. I feel like you could have a lawsuit on your hands there, but that's fine. So he goes to Aaron with this and is like, hey, so about how fucking faithful you are to your wife, it seems like you were boning some chick at a party she was at. How about that? And hands him a guest list and is like, circle the name of the woman you slept with. And this asshole circles like 3 names before Keith stops him and is like, okay, I meant the one that you were sleeping with at the party, not just any woman that you've slept with. And Keith sort of like, when he says this, he's just, you can see his face just being like, my God. And Aaron sort of backs away from him and looks like combo, like ashamed of himself and also like realizing what shit he's in right now because how many suspects are coming up now that he's like pointed it out. I think he wanted her fired because he'd been sleeping with her and she caught him with another woman. And in order to keep her from blowing up at the party, he had her fired because she was upstairs. Okay, so yeah, she definitely has a lawsuit. She should definitely pursue that and embarrass him, please. Thank you. So this leads to the 3 women in the costumes that Keith has photos of and it narrowing her down. So nobody seems to know what it is. Anya says, I think Keith saw the employee looking disgruntled in the picture. I feel like there had to be more to it than that because he really like stops and is just like, oh my God. And there's many reasons why somebody can just look cranky in a photo, you know, I can't think, I don't know. But yeah, so this woman is still working for the caterer, evidently. or working for the new caterer, because she's walking around with like a tray. So I don't know how she got in there, if she just like pretended to be a caterer, I guess. Since she got fired, she couldn't actually still be working for them. So she goes in there and waits to confront him until like most people are sort of distracted, and then just stabs him. Not in the heart, which is too bad. I really would have liked it if he just died immediately. But in the side, and don't get me wrong, is she crazy? Of course she's crazy. You don't fucking stab people, you crazy bitch. But also, is he crazy? Oh yeah, he's psycho, and I hate him, and I'm fine with him dying. Dying is actually optimal, because if he was going to divorce Lynn, that would be a whole like very specific like set of headaches and dealing with alimony or prenups or whatever. Now you don't have any of that. Now you just inherit. Boom, done. And it seems to me Lynn put up with a lot of shit and probably deserves every penny of his fucking money. So whatever. But the women in the costumes are the rich ladies, Sharon and Debbie, and his agent's wife. Yeah, see, y'all are confusing me now. I don't know. I thought it was her in the Wonder Woman. Was it like... Oh, earlier Nancy said, I think it maybe the catering girl was in the background of the photo with the costumes. Oh, so it wasn't even her that he was looking at, the Wonder woman? It was somebody in the background of the Wonder Woman photo that he noticed? I definitely didn't see that. Wow. Okay, I totally missed that. That might make more sense, but I wish that I had actually seen it. The camera was not zoomed in enough, apparently, on whatever it was that attracted his attention, since most of us did not seem to pick up on that. So, yeah, and Logan's, like, right there, because they finally, like, resolve who took the money, except that we don't see how it resolves, because we see Weevil leading Sean out and being like, all right, let's discuss this, with the body language that really implies I am about to whoop your fucking ass. But the next scene that we get with all of them, he's just sitting at the table again and Sean is not there. So I don't know what he did to Sean, and I find it weird that the show doesn't tell me or show me anything, and I don't really know what to feel about that. So they all wind up deciding, hey, we played a hand, we're hungry, let's go crash that party and get some food. And Weevil is joking about how he does not fit in at all. And Veronica's like, yeah, well, me neither, buddy. Don't really know what to tell you. Although she definitely does. Is she underdressed? Yes. Otherwise, 100% fits in. Stop it. Stop it, Veronica. No, you're not part of this. And this is when she stabs him, and it's pretty good. And I'm trying to think what else. Like, I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, Veronica's confrontation. How I forget that? Duncan's dad. Because she goes up to him. He's in a certain room in the house. Now, this is the Echolls house. And it looked like he was trying to get into a safe. Am I crazy? It looked like he was in a room he did not belong in. And I don't know what he's doing in there, but she decides to go in and confront him about everything there, which I found pretty weird. If she had actually chugged all of that whiskey, then it would make more sense. But she just goes in there and asks him about the head of security and the fact that somebody took photos of her and put bullseyes over her, and what does that mean? And why wouldn't my mom have told me and my dad about it? And demanding that he explain things to her. And he says that he doesn't know. And she says that she doesn't believe him. But I have to be honest, I really thought that he was telling the truth in that moment. When he yelled, I don't know. I don't really think it was just, oh, I have no idea what you're talking about. It really seemed more like when she said all this, it jostled something in his brain. And he had an inkling of what it was about, but he didn't understand the details. So when he said, I don't know, I mostly believed him in that moment. And he goes out and like grabs this woman's arm and demands, "What did you do?" Which was that Duncan's mom? His wife, Celeste. Why didn't I know her name was Celeste? Have I heard that before? Celeste. She does not look like a Celeste. And he yells at her, "What did you do?" So he thinks that she's responsible for this somehow. Damn. So she was going after Veronica because she was jealous? That doesn't feel right. That's so pat. Maybe. I just feel like, was there an ongoing relationship with Veronica's mom and him? Like, it feels like there's no need to do something like that unless she's currently concerned. And I feel like Veronica's dad doesn't behave with him the way, I don't know, guys. There's a lot on the table here that's like not really fitting together for me. I'm curious. She's always hated Veronica, right? And she sent the threatening photos to Leanne, right? If Jake and Veronica's mom used to have a relationship and there's a question of whether or not Jake is V's dad, Celeste would want to scare Leanne, maybe. Yeah. I mean, yeah. All right. I'm not satisfied with that. If that's what it is, Celeste has dropped in my estimation in terms of like being smart about things, because I feel like there's a million better ways to handle that. So either I don't like the writing or Celeste is stupid, which, really could be either one, if that's the case. If what y'all are telling me is the case. But it remains to be seen. Veronica asked Jake why he wanted her mom to go away, and he said he didn't. Okay, so he might still be into her. I'm wondering though, because Celeste also really didn't seem to like Lily. And that's another thing, is like, why didn't she like Lily? Why did she give Lily such a hard time? Because I feel like the fact that she didn't like Veronica, and she didn't even seem to like her own daughter, just like she had some issues with women, it feels like, or girls or whatever. Or else Lily was not her daughter, which that doesn't really make any sense. I think Lily didn't obey her like she thought she would. Yeah. I mean, yeah. All right. So maybe she was like kind of jealous because Veronica is a better daughter than Lily is, which, that would be kind of harsh, but yeah. All right. There's a lot happening here. And if she's viewing Lily as an extension of or reflection on herself, she might be more nitpicky with her than Duncan. Maybe. I don't know, guys. This is none of this is feeling like satisfactory to me. I feel like everything that you're saying is perfectly like plausible, but it really just doesn't do it for me story-wise. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. There's nothing, because I'm thinking about like the weekly Who Killed Lily check-in, and there is nothing in this episode to point in either direction. And there's nothing about that whole thing that feels connected at all, except for his suspicion on his wife about the photos, which one could point more firmly at Celeste having killed her daughter, which I just don't see. Because I feel like something would have had to have happened. She's not going to just do that because she despises her kid. Like, she doesn't seem like that type. So I don't know. The only, who do you think right now is the killer? Well, that's what the check-in is, Jamie. That's what I'm working through. So, because what I've been going with pretty much at the end of every episode, because honestly, there has been no real developments in that department to me for several episodes in a row, is I just keep defaulting to Lily's dad. Because men are mostly terrible. And when women die, it's usually the men closest to them who did it. Almost 50% of the time, 60%, 80%. I don't know. It's more than half at least. I can't point the finger at Celeste with any confidence because her dislike of her daughter seems so overt that I don't feel the show would do that, because it's too much of like pointing the arrow directly in the correct direction, which mystery shows tend to not really do. It's usually a red herring. But at the same time, I don't know what this show, what the tone of it is like, if they really do. I guess I do. From the weekly ones, they do try to do red herrings. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I feel like I am just sort of blathering here, thinking out loud. Can we talk about Duncan Logan's fight and subsequent makeup? Oh, yeah. Good call, Rachel. Because Logan is acting like such a dick, and Duncan really is not sure that that Logan isn't the one who took the money. So the fact that he keeps like joking around about it and making light of it, despite the fact that it's possible he is the one who stole it, really is irking the kid a lot. So he like gets in his face and says something about how it feels like you've been sliding more and more to the dark side, and I just haven't seen it until you turned into a complete jackass. Which was part of what I was asking about a few episodes ago, was just like, how are they friends? Because they seem to be friends. And, you know, Lily seems to be, despite being a little wild, an intelligent person. And I just didn't see exactly what she saw in Logan. And the fact that, you know, he's been getting into some shit, and I just don't see how him and Duncan even have anything in common. And so this conversation really made me think of like what I had been asking about. And it seems to offer a pretty solid explanation, which is just that since she died, he's been acting out more and more. And maybe they are just friends out of habit and not because they have that much in common anymore. Because it doesn't seem like they do. Which is an interesting, you know, like, I think that's something that happens a lot more than we talk about, is people just staying friends because like that's what you do, and dumping a friend is a really tough thing to do. It's like even more difficult than dumping a significant other, I think, because there's so little procedure for it, and your lives become much more intertwined when you're just friends than you are if you are in a relationship. So breaking up becomes a lot more fraught. So he yells at him, and like when Logan comes and sits with them later, he like gets up and leaves. Like he's seriously pissed. And then after this whole thing, he goes over and is like, hey, so sorry about that, I guess. And Logan is immediately like, hey dude, listen, I don't blame you for wondering, because I have done plenty of shady shit, so it's fine. And then there's just the awkward, so we're cool? Yeah, we're cool. And they seem like to be really, oh, and they're matching boxers. I didn't even realize that their boxers matched. How did I miss that? That's pretty good. So yeah, I like the two. It's weird how much Logan by himself is trash. Logan with Weevil, when they were like being friendly, was weirdly endearing. Classism and racism aside, the two of them seem to like get along in their bizarre, dysfunctional way. And then Logan and Duncan seem to go together weirdly well. It's like Logan, left to his own devices, is just kind of like poisoned by his own brain, and the worst impulses that he has are left unchecked. But when he's with somebody who's got a tiny bit more of like a moral backbone, he's kept in line enough. Like he really seems to need that guidance. And that seems pretty real to me, you know? Talking about friendships breaking up. Yeah, I've definitely had some like weird moments. I had one friend who just disappeared on me, and she was like at my wedding, and I only had 20 people at my wedding. She was like a really close friend, and she just stopped returning calls, emails, texts, nothing. Vanished off the face of the earth. Never saw her. I have no idea what happened. And I got in touch with her many different methods. Facebook, everything. I have no idea what I did. I have no idea what brought it on. I don't even know, like, for all I know, she could actually be dead, but I'm pretty sure she's not. And just a weird, things happen like that, and people just, we don't really talk about them because just friendship is not seen as important as romantic relationships are, which is unfortunate because they're more important in many ways, to be honest. But so you're saying Logan is growing on you like a fungus. I wouldn't say Logan is growing on me. It's more that Logan has so much potential, and it's a shame to see him like just veer off in the wrong direction when he has the opportunity to do well. Like, he has the people around him, and if he just pushed himself a little bit more, I think he'd be capable of more. But he doesn't seem to want to push himself. He isn't interested in holding himself to a higher standard, because why does he need to? He has everything he'll ever need in his life. So he's just not motivated. And it's always hard to see somebody with the potential and the tools at their disposal to just not make the effort at all. So I guess what it is just I find Logan really frustrating. And there's like a reservoir of like potential good there, and it's just going to be untapped. Or if it is tapped, it's just going to be little bits, and most of it's going to go unused, and it just seems like a waste. So yeah, that's where I'm at. So yeah, I guess I still think her dad did it. Even though the way he acted in this episode, it seems like, oh, I have no idea, and how could you do this, Celeste, and whatever. I'm not sure that I buy it. Psychopaths can be good actors. See, it just seems a little bit too emotional. Something sketchy about this guy. Is there anything else you guys want to ask me? Because I feel like I really tore through the main plot of this episode pretty quick. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, I feel like that's about it. And I think I feel that way a little bit more too, because I did the live watch. So you guys were all there and saw me seeing everything. So, those of you who are listening might not have been there for that, but it's hard for me to like recap a play-by-play when I just watched it 5 minutes earlier and you were mostly there for it. So my apologies to anybody who was not at the live watch and is feeling like, well, I wasn't there and you're not talking about the things. Sorry. Glistening sweaty abs, gross or hot? Gross. I do not care for it. First of all, I don't like shaved chests. Guys who have totally smooth chests and abs, not for me at all. Secondly, that like slippery, like I can smell it. Like when I see it, it's just, no. It's one thing if I'm like hanging out with a guy who gets sweaty as we're working together, but in a picture, I don't like it. Weevil calling out V on the head tilt. Yeah, I enjoy Weevil calling out everybody on everything because he's just not afraid of anybody in a real way that we've seen, except for like the law. And he's just pretty amusing. Do you think Duncan knew about Lily and Weevil? I would guess not. I feel like if Lily's going to keep something on the DL, she's going to be pretty good at it. But saying that, everybody seems to have an inkling that this was going on, so maybe not. So maybe he did. Yeah. I don't know. Lily, she's a bit of a mystery still. All right. Well, guys, thank you all for coming. I hope that the live watch with me was fun. I enjoyed doing it. It was a good way to get my mind off some things, too. What were they doing in the dark classroom? They were playing dice. That weird dark classroom, that's the same room that they had, like, poetry class, and everybody was, like, sitting on pillows. I don't know what that high school is doing, having rooms like that, but that is not a thing that I ever did in my, like, there was no room that was just beanbag chairs in my school. What? No. But yeah, apparently that's like at my school. If there was a classroom that did not have a class going on in it, it was locked. They never left that shit open. You couldn't go in there and just hang out. So there's a lot of stuff, like, not just in this show, but in many shows about high school that I'm just like, yeah, that's not how that works. But it's fine for the sake of the show, you know? I wouldn't even be, like, surprised to find out that Weevil and his friends picked a lock and that they do keep shit locked and they just figured out how to get in there anyway. All right, guys. Well, yeah. Thank you all again so much. Thank you to Leon for commissioning this episode this week. Let me just double check what time the one coming up next week is, because I think it's also on Tuesday. Yes, it is at 3:30 p.m. And, yeah, that is episode 11. So I will see you all. And episode 11 marks the exact halfway point of season 1. So that's pretty exciting. Yay. Oh, and Jamie's going to be on that one with me. That's right. Yay. Oh, good. So, somebody purchased the wannabe level, which means that you get to guest as the co-host, but they wanted Jamie to cover it with me. So she's going to be, I'll have a co-host for that. So that'll be fun. Yay. I forgot about that. Thanks for the reminder, Jamie. All right, everybody. Well, then I will see you next week. And until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.